It's time for MacBreak Weekly, and we got a great MacBreak Weekly coming up. Chris Breen and Mike Elgan are here to join me to talk about WWDC. What's going to happen with iOS, with Mountain Lion, and maybe even some new hardware. It's all next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 302, recorded June 5th, 2012, the summer of Tim. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Carbonite Online Backup, automatic, continuous, unlimited backup for your computer files, only $59 a year. Try it free at Carbonite.com and use the offer code MacBreak to get 2 bonus months with purchase. And by Gazelle, the easy way to sell your iPad, iPhone, iPod, or Android smartphone from your home or office so you can get the latest versions. Get a risk-free quote that's good for 30 days at Gazelle.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, and it's going to be the Bizarro edition because neither Andy Nako nor Alex Lindsay are with us today, but that doesn't mean we don't have a great crew, starting to my left with the Mac Daddy himself, the Chris Breen, the hair of Chris Breen. And yes, lovely to see you from Macworld, Mac911. Body of Breen is his Twitter account.
It's great to see you too, Liam. Thanks.
I asked him already, kids. I know you want to know. What is, if you're watching video, what is that thing to his left, that keyboard? And then,
yeah, the keyboard on the left is a Prophet 5 from Sequential Circuits from back in the day, heavily featured in every recording from about 1984 on to 88. And then just to the left of that is Laurie Anderson's United States Live, because it's Laurie's birthday. It's her 65th birthday. So
she's 65?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Oh, golly. Laurie Anderson, great street performer. You might have seen her on Saturday Night Live in the 70s. And she did Oh, Superman. Wow. It's nice. Every time Chris is on, he has a featured, highlighted album. Then this guy over here, this cat over here, that's Mike Elgan of Mike Elgan. He's also now writing for Computer World, and where else? I can't remember.
Cult of Mac is probably the most germane site, which I love writing for. It's a great audience.
I love it too. Yeah.
But also I'm writing for a bunch of other folks. I actually write a lot of iOS and Apple-oriented stuff for a site called Houzz, Houzz, which is a home design site. And it's amazing how much stuff there is surrounding Apple, coffee tables and crazy speaker systems that are actually quite beautiful home decor things. So I'm writing a lot of Apple stuff for Houzz.
Neato. Yeah, the Apple stores announced they're going to be selling the Nest.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
Yes.
That means that Houzz was right to do Apple stuff.
Yep. So it's a lot of fun. And it's huge. The existing audience on that site just eats it up. They love the tech stuff because there's so much excitement in home design for tech, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, kind of confirms what people think about people who are like really arty and into home design. They probably have Macs, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's if you want something, if you're into beautiful objects, you're probably not going to get a netbook or something.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's good to have you. Alex is traveling, and boy, we got a schedule from him that is just kind of mind-boggling. He's going to be all over the world. We're going to get him back on sometime soon. And then Andy's a little under the weather, so we hope you feel better, Andy. We miss you. We miss you. But there is a lot to talk about. I'm so glad we have a great cast of experts on here because, gosh, there's WWDC, and I want to talk about that. But really, in the eyes of some, we crossed a very important Rubicon on June 1st. The App Store on the Mac now requires sandboxing. Chris, would you explain what this means and why people are some developers are so ahead up about this?
Sure. The idea is that when you have an iOS device, like you have your iPad or your iPhone, they have taken all the elements that go with it, all the little prefs files, all the added files, all the support files, and instead of tucking them away somewhere in a folder, they put them all within the app. And the idea here is that they want to protect we poor users, because clearly, even after 25 years of doing this sort of thing, we can get ourselves into trouble. Viruses may be able to get in and wreak havoc. We might, as poor, stupid users, get in and start throwing files away that we shouldn't. And so Apple is protecting us. They are acting as our benevolent nanny, and they've taken this feature over to the Mac OS. And what they want to do is they want to take applications and they want to incorporate all the peripheral files and connect them with the application so that they are within this sandbox, so that you don't have the opportunity to play with these files, and that you can't get in trouble by things mucking about with them. The difficulty of this for some developers is that there are certain kinds of applications that need to talk at a very low level with other applications and with the operating system.
Not that low a level. That's the point.
Okay. Yeah.
It would be fine if it were like, oh, no, don't worry. I mean, it's really low-level stuff. But it's things like jumping to a particular folder in the open or save dialog.
Okay, right.
I mean, it's stuff that we have become used to having. The ability to have administrator privileges to edit administrator files.
I think that's the whole point. They want us to stop being used to having that. Apple is very systematically moving us to a post-PC world, and I think this is an example of that. They want to get everybody used to the idea that file access is going in the direction of and everything access is going in the direction of the iOS.
The good news is you don't have to buy stuff in the App Store, although, there's a lot of incentive to do so. It makes it a lot easier. You can put it on 5 different apps. Is it 5 or 10? I can never remember. It's a number of different machines. It's nice when you create a new machine because you just log into your account and boom, you update all your files that you've purchased. Jonathan Wrench, who's a Mac developer, wrote on his blog, wrench.com, RENTSZCH, that one of the big issues that has long been a question mark was, should I buy on the App Store or should I buy it direct from the developer? And there are a lot of developers like BB Edit, and others who continue to offer versions on their website. He says now the answer is very clear. You should buy directly from the developer because you'll get non-sandboxed apps. So you get a better experience. Non-sandboxed apps can auto-navigate the user to correct folders, run user-written Apple scripts, control iTunes, and install PDF services automatically. Non-sandbox BB Edit can directly edit files that require administrative privileges. Non-sandboxed OmniFocus can automatically determine the selected document in the Finder when creating a clipping. There's lots more, and he has a link to a long list of things that you're going to lose if you – and this actually comes from Lex Friedman writing in Macworld on Friday. Lex says, depending on whom you ask, Friday is the best or worst thing to come to the Mac App Store since it's opened its doors. What do you think? I understand what you're saying, Mike Elgan, that Apple's trying to make things more secure. I mean, this is what we've got on the iPad, but we have it on the iPad. Should it be on the desktop too?
I just think that they're doing two things. One, they're trying to, there are two issues they're trying to deal with. They're trying to improve their operating systems, or in their view, improve. And they're also trying to improve the user. And part of this is they have some vision. We don't know what their vision is, but they have, I'm sure Apple has a very strong idea of how the world will work, how Apple products will work in 10 years, in 5 years. And they chip away at those at that progress every chance they get. So when they do stuff like this, really kind of what they're telling us is this is where we're going. We're going in a direction of kind of a radical appliance model where you're not. They don't want anybody in there tinkering and optimizing and changing and accessing things. They want you to install the app and use it and do things the Apple way. So, I think this is a clear indication. This is the kind of thing I think what Apple means about the post-PC world. And I've been predicting for a while that eventually, even as the OS 10 gets more iOS-like, it will eventually be replaced by iOS. I'm sure of it. That runs on very, very powerful hardware, and the people who use, who do high-end stuff now will be, doing it with touch, voice, gesture, pen, iPads the size of big screen TVs. And so they're moving us in that direction, and this is sort of like the kind of the behind-the-scenes version of the applianceification of everything.
Somebody in our chat room says, I was a pirate until the App Store came along, and it's such a good experience that I now buy all my software. It's less expensive. It's easy. It's automatically updated, or relatively automatically updated. You just run the App Store and ask for updates. I just updated a bunch of apps this morning. It does sound like, though, at least for now, we have the choice. The question is, and this is, by the way, what I brought up when the App Store launched. I was very nervous about this kind of move. And I just wonder how long before OS 10 becomes like iOS, where you have to jailbreak it if you want to buy third-party apps. Listen to what Rich Siegel of Bare Bones told Macworld in November about features that won't work in a sandbox BB edit. Multi-file search and replace. Text Factory, which is really fantastic. Multi-application automation using AppleScript or Automator. Open file by name. Disk browsers, live folder views and projects. SCM integration, bulk HTML tool operations, and lots of behind-the-scenes stuff like scanning directories from CTAGs data. So does this breaks BB Edit? He offers a stripped-down version in the App Store. What do you think, Chris Breen? Is this a positive move?
I think it depends on what kind of user you are. I think Apple has fundamentally changed or is trying to change our mind about what kind of people should be using their stuff. They're looking at the person coming from iOS and moving to the Mac, and they want to have that similar experience. So that if you started on an iPhone, if you started on an iPod Touch or an iPad, and you move to the Mac, you're going to say, oh, I understand what this experience is like. It's just like it is on my iPhone. That leaves behind a lot of people like us who've been doing this for a long time.
Yes.
So
it's us old farts that are complaining.
Well, and I think, look at where the market is. That the market of old farts is declining because,
we're dying off.
We're dying off. And the young, soon-to-be older farts.
Don't you need hackers to continue to develop and make advances and innovate? I mean, don't you need – it's not just old farts. It's people who want to hack around. Don't you still need us?
I think you do. Yeah, I think you do. But at this point, and I think Mountain Lion at least provides a nice hint that by default, yes, they are going to direct you to the Mac App Store. But you don't have to do that. They're giving you 3 levels. So if you want to download something from Rich Siegel's site, for example, or a developer site, you can do that, and you can tell the OS to back off. I want to install just as I always have, and
let's hope you can keep
they're
doing
going to let you do it.
And, the folks who do Alfred, and I'm a big fan of Alfred, as you know, wrote on their blog recently that Gatekeeper is going to solve this in Mountain Lion. That Gatekeeper will allow you to digitally sign your apps, and then things that won't work in the App Store, you'll still have in other words, you'll have the security as an end user because you'll be using, you could say, I only want to use digitally signed apps. Those apps, to get the digital certificate, make specific requests about things they want to do and don't want to do. And Apple presumably can check them out, make sure that they're doing things that, they're doing all that, give them a certificate. So Gatekeeper will eliminate the need to be in the sandbox but give users security. Does that sound right? By the way, Alfred says, yes, we offer a Mac App Store, but your best bet is to download Alfred from our website, which is what I do because you can't use the Power Pack. What they've done is they've effectively forked. Unfortunately, they've forked their app, and there's a limited version on the App Store, which I had to stop. I bought and I canceled, and now I have to download from Alfred's site because I want the Power Pack. Now
and I've heard that from developers too, is that is the strategy going forward for a lot of these people. Say, yes, we want to be in the App Store because there's lots of money there, because those newbies are going to go there. But we're also, for people who are savvy enough to know that they need these features, they can go to our site and do it.
Right.
I agree. It seems goofy to have to split the thing into like the power user version and the non-power user version.
It
What
feels like
is
fascism.
the professional side.
It feels like fascism to me. Mike, you're hitting your keyboard kind of hard when you hit return. I hear boom. So it's going right up through that microphone there and into the airwaves. Gardner questions my use of the word fascism, but isn't it fascism when you say you do it our way or the highway? And then the other issue, I think, frankly, is it more secure? And I don't think that that's been proven, that having Apple, it's certainly not been more secure in iOS. There's plenty of stuff in iOS that's a problem, right?
Well, here's one thing about actual fascism. One of the things that makes it possible is that I was a political science major, and we used to talk a lot about this, and in communist societies as well.
The trains run on time is always the saying,
the trains
right?
run on time, but there's always these little pressure valves. So, for example, the reason the Soviet Union lasted so long is that some speculate is that there were all these different ways to cheat, and so people were oppressed, but at the same time they kind of got a chance to stick it to the man.
There was a black market. You could get toilet paper from the guy down the street.
Yeah, exactly. You cheat by cutting in line, all that stuff. But if you know, in Apple's case, you know, there are a gazillion the power users, the hackers, the explorers, the rebels, the people that he referred to in those commercials, the troublemakers. They'll find a way, and they'll jailbreak their iOS devices, and they'll eventually maybe have to jailbreak their OS X devices. But you wonder whether Apple just knows that's going to happen and kind of doesn't try too hard to shut it down. Some might disagree with that, but they're trying to sell to as many people as possible, and this may be the good formula. Maybe you have this sort of lockdown, controlled system, and then the people who are going to tinker, the people who are going to mess with things, are going to do it anyway, no matter what. So it all kind of works out.
I guess my issue is that you got the iPad. And so I steer a lot of people, inexperienced novices and so forth, who don't need, to do heavy duty computing, to the iPad, because it is, sandbox. It is more secure. It's not even just about security. It's about less confusing because there's no file system. There's no desktop. But they've got that. So why can't we just keep our gosh darn desktops?
Well, there's actually nothing new about this. The entire history of user interfaces is along the same trajectory. There was a time at which you had to be, basically a rocket scientist to get within 10 feet of any computer. And then as computer power, Moore's law gives us more and cheaper compute power that can be applied to user interfaces. That application has always been about making the device more friendly to the user. And so, for example, in the 80s, 70s and 80s, to use a computer was essentially to program it to a certain extent. And eventually we had applications, but throughout the 90s, we spent all our time optimizing and tweaking and configuring and defragging and doing all this management and tweaking. And we used to love that stuff. I mean, that was fun, but that was using a computer. It satisfied our inner engineer or whatever. But just as it has for decades, it continues away from that toward the masses, towards just it being this thing that you use and not something that you work on. Cars are the same way, by the way. Years ago, people used to own a car was to open the hood and mess around with everything.
Can't do that anymore, can you?
You don't do it. You open the hood now, and it's like, well, who knows what's going on?
It's a computer, and it's a proprietary computer.
Yep, my Prius has 8 computers. I don't know what's going on in there, and I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to drive it.
And unless you're a dealer and spend tens of thousands of dollars on diagnostic equipment, there's no user serviceable parts inside.
Right.
And and I guess it's the shade tree mechanic is bugged about that. And I guess when Chris says old farts, what you're talking about is shade tree computer users, right, who want to mess around on the inside. I mean, it's not like we don't have a choice. We could go to Linux. I'm just saying I would like to keep using Apples, and I would like to keep being able to get under the hood. And I frankly think that this is the first step in a long march to locking it down in exactly the same way iOS is. You disagree, Chris?
Well, I certainly hope not. No, it could be, but any time that I look at what Apple's doing and I think about the company's arrogance, which they're known for at times, and I think they're going to do something awful, and then 6 months down the line, I see what they actually do, and I go, oh.
Well, there are plenty of people inside
really
Apple.
Isn't quite as bad as I thought it was.
There are plenty of people inside Apple like us. I mean, that's who, that's who's writing the software. So they must be making noises themselves, saying, "Well, let's not go too far." I mean, is that protecting us? Or is Tim Cook going to rule with the iron fist that Steve Jobs did and said, doesn't matter what you think, we're locking this sucker down?
Yeah, I honestly, I'm just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. I want to make a lot. I want to rattle the cage. I know, but I think it's our job to rattle the cage and say, don't go there. Don't go there, Apple.
I'm sure they've heard this. It's not like developers aren't.
Well, if we don't make a lot of noise, I think Apple's going to say, hey, see, nobody cares.
But I do think people do care. I think there wouldn't be a vital and lively jailbreak community out there on the iOS if people didn't care.
Yeah.
And certainly Apple has done things like, let's take Final Cut when they released it. And the people who were doing professional video editing, that kind of thing, screamed bloody murder. And there were reviews on the App Store that just destroyed the thing.
Yes.
And 3 or 4 months later, they said, okay.
They backed off.
We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, it's like Apple, that PR, they don't say the next day, gee, we really blew it, and we'll get back to you in 3 months. They stay quiet until they've got the solution. And then they say, yeah, well, we were working on this all along, and here, now you've got what you want. So I do think that Apple hears. I think developers talk to them. I think users talk to them. And sometimes, yes, they sort of get this mindset that this is what my mom would like, and so this is what we're going to do. But eventually they hear it from people like us and from regular users as well, that they go, okay, we've taken that step too far.
And I do think it's a great idea. I mean, I buy, whenever I can, I buy the app from the App Store because it is a great experience. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. That's what scares me. If it were a crappy experience, I would say, yeah, no, don't worry about it. If it were Ping, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not Ping. It's good. And I think we have to stick up for ourselves a little bit, Gatekeeper is going to be a big improvement. I think. Initially I was a little nervous about the idea that apps would have to, go through this process to get signed. And now that I understand it, I think it's a great idea. Apple's saying you have to say as an application, you have to say what you want access to. You can do all these things that the App Store won't let you do, but you have to check that box. And then you have to submit it, and you have to get a certificate. And you still don't have to have a certificate. But I can use Gatekeeper and say, hey, don't let my mom download anything that doesn't have a certificate. And I presume Gatekeeper will also say, don't let my mom buy anything that's not in the App Store.
Right.
Just don't let my mom buy anything.
Yeah, really. No, my mom's good. She's very sophisticated, actually.
But, I mean, look at Lion when they suddenly took away access to the user library, right? You try to go in there, and that file's invisible now.
Yeah.
Well, you can get there, so
Apple
Apple still provides the way, but you have to know the secret in order to do that. So
that's not such a bad thing. Although I find myself doing it. I did it like 4 times yesterday, so it's like a little annoying. It's like, oh, come on, really? Can't I just turn it on? All right, enough. I just think this is an important watershed in the history of Apple and of Macintosh in particular, and I think it's a big deal. And I think it could be very positive. I mean, I do. I mean, I think that most people will buy from the App Store. They will be safer because of it. Life will be a little bit easier. Although the myth of Macintosh being easier to use than anything else is long gone. Partly, I'm concerned because Windows is going in the same direction, and I worry that there won't be. The big two are just going to be both of them tablet operating systems, and you'll have to use Linux if you want to use a desktop. Neither of you have anything to say to me.
Well, I think desktops are going to become tablets. I mean, I think that's
what I'm afraid of.
Well, but it'll be these tablets are going to do absolutely everything. And for example, let's imagine this for a sec. You have this big screen TV tilted at an angle like a drafting table, and you're a writer. You don't like on-screen keyboards. You like physical keyboards. So you have a keyboard that's kind of got a wedge shape underneath it, so it's designed to sit on a drafting table angle. Plunk it down on the screen the screen recognizes it as a keyboard, kicks over to physical keyboard mode, a document pops up in front of it, and you type away. And it's just like a desktop. It has all kinds of apps or whatever. You talk to it. It understands gestures and things like that. So, almost in almost every area of technology, nothing ever goes away.
Right.
If you look at the history of media, nothing ever. I guess the telegraph kind of went away, but pretty much
the
everything
8-track, the cassette, things go away. Things go away.
Well, yes, but media, but like radio, for example,
player pianos
never went away.
Well, yeah. There are a few examples of things that didn't go away. I can give you lots of examples of things that did go away.
Yeah, but I mean, player
Buggy
pianos,
whips.
I have a player piano on my iPhone. I mean, they don't go away. You know what I mean? They get integrated into the new stuff, and so everything that you do on a desktop will be doable on the tablet desktop of the future.
And I think probably we'll be able to hack it. But I worry about where are you going to get the hackers of the next generation if they can't mess around with their stuff? And so I just hope that, I guess there'll be an active jailbreak community. I think most of the people who jailbreak their iPhones are not adults. They're young people who want to hack around with it. So
I think we've got to rely on the app development community to create apps that will turn children into hackers, as bad as that sounds.
It's what we need. I agree. Yeah.
And I think we can count on that. I think it'll happen.
Good. All right. I won't worry then. All is well.
Thank you, the children.
I feel better already. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the WWDC is coming up June 11th for the keynote. We will cover that live, by the way, from the Brick House studios. And we're trying to figure out if Andy's going to come out or not. And either way, we'll have a coverage of the you'll be going, Chris Breen, right?
I will be around. Yeah, I'm going to be around that week. I'm not going to the keynote.
You're not going to the keynote?
Didn't get my invitation.
Jason's going.
But I will be hanging around.
Jason Snell's probably going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get some people on and we'll cover it. And I don't think they're going to stream it. They haven't done that in ages. No. But we will. We'll watch the blogs, the live blogs. We'll watch Jason Snell type, and we'll comment. It looks to be there are going to be some big announcements. In fact, this may be the biggest keynote in a long, long, long time. And we'll talk about those announcements in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsor, Carbonite.com. Boy, I hope Carbonite can still work in a sandbox. I guess it doesn't matter because you don't buy Carbonite on the App Store. Okay. We don't want Time Machine to be the only backup. Time Machine's fine as far as it goes, backing up to a local hard drive, and you've got everything go back in time. You got the Starfield and the Magic interface. But let's be honest. The best backup is like Time Machine, automatic, right? You don't have to think about it. Continuous. One thing Time Machine's missing, off-site. Because if there's a fire, a flood, a disaster, you don't want your backups to be sitting there right next to the computer because they're going to go too. Somebody comes and steals everything. They're going to steal the hard drive too. That's why Carbonite is a great addition to your backup process. For Windows or Mac, Carbonite lets you back up automatically, continuously online. It's like Time Machine into the internet. It's a great partner for Time Machine, especially since it starts at less than $5 a month, $59 a year for everything on your internal drive. They do have plans for external drives, multiple computers, and so forth. That's all there at the Carbonite website. Your files can be encrypted, so you have total privacy. They're using SSL, so you don't have to worry about even an open access Wi-Fi access spot. You still can back up from there. And then if you have a computer disaster, it couldn't be easier to restore. But better than that, you can also, it's kind of better than iCloud because you can access your files anywhere, anytime, on any computer. Just log into your Carbonite account. But they also have an iPad app, free. Smartphone apps, free. So it's cloud storage plus backup, less than $5 a month. And if you use our offer code MacBreak, when you sign up, you're going to get 14 months for the price of 12. So it's even more affordable. No credit card required for the free trial. 2 weeks free. Go to Carbonite.com. Give it a try. That's why we always encourage everybody to take advantage of the free trials. All of our advertisers do that, and we really encourage them to do so because we think that you're smart. And the best way to talk to a smart buyer, customer, is to say, hey, try it. You decide. Does it work for you? Let us know. And if it does, then buy it. If it doesn't, no sweat. Carbonite.com. The offer code for this is MacBreak. Now, the way WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference, works, is that journalists can go, but only to the keynote, and then they kick us all out, and only developers could stick around, and they are enjoined from saying anything to anybody. So basically, it's a sealed conference. There's no way to get information out of it unless you have a developer who's willing to break their NDA, and none of the developers I work with are going to do that because they're decent, honorable people. They signed the deal and they said we're not going to break our NDA. Did we lose Chris Breen? Are you there? I think his bandwidth went out. Mike, it's just you and me today.
Just you and me.
We'll see.
Well,
We'll get Chris Breen back.
I think I always hold out hope for a dishonorable developer who will go in there and just lie and break his NDA.
Yeah.
That would be great.
There usually is somebody.
Contact me, Mike at Elgan.com.
Although Apple's pretty good, and I think Apple's developers are pretty good about not leaking. There's not been a lot of leaks from WWDC, and it is a little frustrating because we go to the keynote and they say, "Okay, that's all. See ya." And then when we get people on, like Rich Siegel from Bare Bones Software, Oliver Breidenbach from Boink is going to come up afterwards, after the keynote. So is everybody's in town. So is Aaron Hilligas from Big Nerd Ranch. But they won't. We'll sit them down. We'll say, "Well," and they'll say, "Can't say anything." How about that keynote though?
Right. How about the stuff you were spoon-fed to?
Yeah.
But it stands in total contrast to Google I/O, which I go to and which is just completely open to the press.
I know. I love it.
It's just night and day. But that's how both of those companies operate. They're one of them is incredibly closed and the other one's incredibly open, and it's a mixed bag. And either if you can get some inside information from WWDC, then you've got a scoop. There's no way to get a scoop at Google I/O.
It's funny. Everybody now, I think Microsoft started these developer conferences. Everybody does them now. Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook does. They have their F8 conference. And they're really a great resource for geekier audiences like ours.
Yes.
Because it's an insight into what's going on. And this WWDC, there's a new iOS. We're going to see details of iOS 6. I'm pretty sure about this. This is all speculation. Yeah. We're going to see details of Mountain Lion. And probably we're going to see some new hardware. And that's the interesting story. There are lots of rumors now circulating.
There's so much information. There's so much speculation about what they're going to, in so many different categories about big announcements, that if they didn't announce something huge, that would be the biggest story of all.
That's happened. That's happened where Apple has not lived up to the rumor mill. Shocking, right. But I don't think
everybody's disappointed that Apple didn't live up to the stuff that they had nothing to do with.
Right.
It's its uncertainty. You can feel it's kind of like tectonic plates. You can feel the pressure building, and at some point there's going to be the big one. The best case scenario is if everything comes true, Apple TV, completely new phone, bunch of surprises all over the OS X.
New laptops, new desktops, new Mac Minis.
And I think it's likely.
Yeah. Wow.
It's summer already.
Well, here's one of the reasons I think you're seeing the new hardware rumors is because Intel's Sandy Bridge part, the desktop part shipped last month. This month, the laptop part, and it is in none of the Apple hardware. So it seems very likely that Sandy Bridge will come to Macintosh, and when it does, it will bring USB 3, for instance. Mac Daddy Chris Breen is back. What are you hearing about the rumors?
I've heard everything,
yes,
including unicorns, and I think that's unlikely.
No unicorns. There's a pony in there somewhere.
Right. What I don't expect to see is new iPads, new iPhone, new anything. I think we will see new MacBook Pros. They're talking about the 15-inch being a slimmer, not a MacBook Air, but at least slimming the thing down with USB on it, the new Sandy Bridge chipset on there. That makes sense. Because when Apple does these announcements at WWDC, they try to bend them a little bit toward the professional market, toward developers. So that's why no iMac, because that's even though it's
you don't think an iMac.
I don't think so. I think that's for a fall event. I think that really is for...
So 9 to 5 Mac, here's what 9 to 5 Mac is saying. They believe there will be the largest simultaneous launch of new Macs in Apple's history. They believe, according to their sources, 4 out of the 5 Mac lines will be updated June 11th at the WWDC kickoff. They expect updates to, for sure, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, iMac, and then the only question mark is which one's not going to be updated. Will it be the Mini or the Pro? They think the Pro will not be updated, even though it's way overdue. We have no Thunderbolt. But the Pro is not in that, i357 line. It's a Xeon line. Right. So I don't know if Sandy Bridge will put pressure on the Pro. So maybe they think it's going to be the Mac Mini. Does that seem not credible that they would make these? I mean, they've got iOS 6 and Mountain Lion to talk about, and there's a lot of new stuff in the software. And you're right, it's a developer conference. Should they have a separate hardware? Will they have a separate hardware event? We've got Retina displays across the line.
I think that they do some of the hardware. I think I will go on the record in saying that I think 9 to 5 Mac is on crack because it just isn't. It just is. It doesn't make any sense in regard to what they've ever done in the past. So to say, no, this time is ultra special.
Right.
I think it's going to be one of those things where people are let down afterwards because they didn't get everything.
Well, one thing is different.
iOS 6 is huge.
Right.
I mean, this is a big, big deal. Mountain Lion, people need details on this. If they're going to do some kind of new Apple TV strategy,
right,
that too is huge. Why throw everything into one bucket when you don't need to?
The other thing is that's a good thing to announce a little bit later in the year, just before the holiday season.
No, they want to get it out in time for school, which means you do it now so that you can get it for the September buying season.
Mm. Yeah.
Tradition. Okay, I'm going to give you the counter argument. I think you guys are probably right, but I'm going to give you the counter argument that Apple no longer has these big events. They don't have Macworld Expo. They don't have CES. They don't have another time to announce this stuff. It would be kind of silly to have all of this software stuff and then have in July or August another event when you've already got Moscone Center leased. And why not just boom? Why not just do it all, Chris? Is there a marketing reason that you'd want to dribble and drab it out? Plus, all of this stuff is due for update. You would agree on that, right? I mean,
yeah, I do. I think that Apple doesn't.
If you think they're going to put Ivy Bridge in this stuff, why not now? It's this month.
Yeah, because I don't think they need to. I think that Apple doesn't rely on these big events anymore, and that's one reason they don't do them, except for this. And this is really about developers, because Apple has the power to send out a press release or an invitation a week before something happens, and everybody in the world comes, and it gets on the front page of every paper and periodical and website in the world. Apple has that kind of juice now. So
that's true.
They can do things on their own time. And I don't think that they want to get locked into what they used to do with Macworld Expo, which is come June every single year. They go, oh, God, we got to stop work and we have to have a bunch of stuff ready so that we can do this. Where I do think it's important that they have a biggish splash this year is because this is Tim Cook's, not exactly his coming out party, but it's getting close, in that he has to show that Apple is still innovating, that they can still release new products, and they want to have some splashy stuff, but that could be just the iOS 6 and that stuff, along with a very cool-looking MacBook Pro.
All right, here's the argument for why you do it all. Another argument for why you do it all now.
Okay.
Retina means OS updates. Retina means a big shift in. You're going to be talking about, in order to talk about what's new, really new in Mountain Lion, USB 3 because of Ivy Bridge, Retina displays. You almost need to say, and by the way, here's the hardware that goes with it.
Yeah.
That would be my counter argument. It's my belief. This is good. We'll find out in a week.
Yeah,
it's my belief that 9 to 5 is right, and that this will be a massive product launch for Apple. That they will get a ton of attention for it. They are way overdue. If they don't do it, and I think it is, as CR1 says, Tim Cook's quinceañera. What did they say? It is his big coming out party. It's the debutante ball. You saw it kind of already last week at D10 at the All Things D conference, where Tim Cook took the stage at an event that Steve Jobs had dominated for years and really got a lot of attention and was very CEO-like, was he not?
Yeah.
I think this is Tim Cook saying, here I am, boys, and look what we got. And I think this is a big opportunity for him to do just that.
Well, I think there's another thing that I think that one of the things that people aren't talking enough about. I don't think there are enough rumors around this event. So I'll start another one. I think that there was some chatter, and I actually got into it and wrote something about this, about Apple's e-commerce platform.
Oh, my God.
And there was a guy who made a really interesting prediction, which is that Apple would embrace Bluetooth 4.0 as either an alternative to NFC or as an addition to NFC. And I found that argument incredibly persuasive. Now, Apple is in the world of cash registers. You should have a show called This Week in Cash Registers, Leo. Kidding.
We should. This Week in POS.
But in the POS world, the sort of nuclear bomb that went off, has been going off recently is the rise of iPads as cash registers. New businesses.
I see them everywhere. You're right.
Everywhere.
It's the point of sale device because of Square.
Yes. They're selling Square now. Where did I see it? They're selling Square in like retail stores like Office Max and stuff like that. You can buy
everywhere.
Squares.
We go into the coffee shop down the street, and it's the one we use, even though there's 8 coffee shops within a 2-block radius of this place. Literally, we go to the one
buy at the register.
Yeah, we go to one because I can go in and I can say it's Leo. Put it on Leo, and he goes, "Yeah, no problem."
Okay, so here's the argument. If you go to an Apple store, you'll notice there are no cash registers.
Right.
What happens is you find some kid in a T-shirt with the logo on it, and you say, "Hey, I'd like to buy this. It's an iPhone case," and they're like, "Sure," and they whip out this little thing and they swipe your card, and they're like, "Okay, you want the receipt sent to your email address?" You're like, "Sure," and then you wander out of the store with it. I think this is Apple's vision for all retail.
Interesting.
I think they want to kill the cash register. They want to kill the practice. They have a way of reinventing whole processes, whole sort of cultural things. And one of these things that we do that's kind of weird is we go to some big store, we find the item that we'd like to purchase, we carry it to the desk where they have this giant machine, and we wait in line, and we walk up to the machine, and then there's it all has to take place in that place because that cash register is this big monster from the 19th century. It's like this big, like, super typewriter thing, and I think Apple just wants to destroy that. If the point of sale device is Bluetooth 4.0, which has a distance of 150 feet or something like that, you can make a purchase anywhere in the store, and so I'm very persuaded by that. Here's another point of detail on that. Apple is pretty slow with new technologies. They roll out new technologies when they're super ready. They don't do it just for the sake of doing it. And yet they were the most aggressive company, bar none, at rolling out Bluetooth 4.0. They've had it on every single device they've released since last summer. They were the first phone, the first tablet.
What's new in Bluetooth 4.0? What is the difference in 4.0?
Bluetooth 4.0 has this wonderful low power mode. So right now we all have these, or some of us have these Bluetooth keyboards that Apple sells. I use one with my iPad, and you have to change the batteries every 4 or 5 months, something like that, little AA batteries. The power mode on Bluetooth 4.0 is so low, you will never have to change the batteries, ever, in the lifetime of that keyboard. It'll last 5-6 years without needing to be recharged or having the batteries replaced. It's so low power, and it has this kind of ability to wake up. So right now, there are all kinds of proprietary wireless technologies. You can buy a thermometer, outdoor thermometer that communicates via some proprietary wireless thing. There are all these little household things all over the place we don't even think about that use wireless technologies. Bluetooth 4.0 is the standard that will replace all of those proprietary technologies because it can do magic things like wake things up. It's very low power. It can trickle out. It can maintain a contact with a device that's off. So when you turn the device back on, it just knows you're there, and it's a really breathtaking technology.
What if Tim Cook not only made WWDC the biggest product announcement of all time, but just like kind of blew the lid off of it? Okay, now I'm going to go even farther. What if they include, Qualcomm announced at Computext, by the way, a new Bluetooth 4 chip that includes the new 802.11ac. What if they announce all of the above, USB 3, because the Ivy Bridge gives it to you, and of course, still they're going to continue to do Thunderbolt. Maybe they'll even do the optical Thunderbolt, the light peak it's copper now. Maybe they'll do the optical and 802.11 AC, which means new airport extremes. And by the way, let's throw an Apple TV, a television set in there as well.
Well, you know,
let's just go crazy. Let us imagine the furor, Chris Breen. Imagine. The world would go crazy. They'd have the news cycle not for 2 days, for 2 weeks, for 2 months. It's all anybody would talk about. It'd be an Apple summer. What if Tim Cook says, I'm going to make, and by the way, they've intimated that they're going to do major product announcements this year, as has Johnny Ive. What if what if they made this the summer of Apple?
I love Seinfeld references.
They would be masters of the entire domain.
They're already masters of the entire domain. They don't have to do this. No, but
Apple, you know, did you watch Mad Men on Sunday? Because there was a wonderful moment when Don Draper says, you have 50% of the market. What are you talking about? Dow has 50. You want 100%. I will not rest until you have 100% of the market. Apple is not content with a 90% market share. They want 100%.
Yes, they do.
Why not make it the summer of Apple? The summer of Tim.
I'm just not getting the summer of Tim. Because I think that, why blow your wad on one thing?
Because that implies because then they'll have another wad next summer.
Well, I'll tell you why,
but why not have lots of little wads as you go along throughout the year? It sort of keeps, it's like, Apple's done, and that's it. It's sort of like be a 65-year-old man having sex. It's like, okay, here, done. I'll see you next month. So, I would prefer to be the
You'd rather have lots of little wads than be the master for your domain with one giant wad.
Without going even any farther on this, yes. The idea is that,
I think it's just a deep philosophical difference between you and me, Chris Breen.
It may be, and maybe it's. I have history on my side. I don't know.
You do,
but maybe
you do have history on your side, and that's why it's all going to be. This is Tim Cook's chance to say, "Forget Steve Jobs. I am Tim Cook, and I am here, and we're going to do it a little differently, but we're gonna knock your socks off."
I think that could be interesting. I think you should have me back in 2 weeks, and then we can have an "I told you so."
Yeah, one of us,
and one or the other of us will have to wear the dunce hat, and it may be me.
Actually, the way it usually works is, first of all, I'm always wrong, so you won just by default. Right. But second of all, it usually isn't all one way or the other, right? There'll be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I'm always, every time I try to predict what Apple's going to do. I'm like, in chess, it's like Apple's Bobby Fischer, and I'm just some guy on the street going, I think you should move your queen. And he looks at me and goes,
well, and that's the problem is that all of us are the guys in the street, right?
Yeah,
and we all say, okay, this is how it's going to work. Right. And then they do something else and you go, that's why they're running the company and not me.
That's why it's fun to cover Apple. It is a company that, people keep saying, why does Apple get such good press? Because it's fun.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh, sure.
It's just fun to cover.
Plus, they're good at it. A lot of the other companies in the industry, they're so desperate to get some play in the media that they're working on something and they're like, look, we're working on this fantastic thing. Look at what we're working on. By the time they ship it, nobody cares anymore because they've been talking about it so much.
Exactly.
Steve Jobs once said that great artists steal, and that's an often misunderstood quote. But the thing that great artists always do is they always surprise. And if you can't surprise, I think they do a great job of surprising people. If they go through an announcement and everybody says, yeah, that's what we expected, and they've done it before, they've done it recently, it's a lousy announcement. When they throw something out there and nobody expected it, the degree to which it's surprising is the degree to which it gets huge press, a lot of attention. And so they're really good at that. Their message discipline is legendary. The way they control the fact that they don't invite you and me, Leo, to any of their events. Like this is all part of their secret sauce for success because they're really good at surprise. So there will be surprises. There'll be some things that are not surprising at this, but there'll be some surprises. And what we're hoping for is gigantic gigantic surprises. But I think in the larger scheme of things, what they're doing is they have a vision for many of these things. There's some things they don't really have fully gelled vision, but many of these things share qualities. They're always unifying. They want everything to work and look and feel very similar. If you look at the use of aluminum, the use of these different technologies, everything funneling everything to and from iCloud, they're just constantly unifying things. And when they have an announcement, they come out and say, well, what's ready to announce? I don't think it's a thing where Tim Cook says, I'm gonna show everybody that I'm like this awesome CEO. I don't even think that's his style. I think it's his job to announce things, and whatever they have to announce as a company, he's going to announce. And sometimes there's lots of stuff, and I think I could just. It feels like this time, this announcement is going to be lots of stuff and probably a couple of really big things. I think it's going to be a great announcement. I wish they would let me go.
Marmite does make a very good point in our chat room. He says, look, you can't release all these things at once because there's limited budget. Nobody can buy all these new things at once. So that would be the argument about spreading it out because if you hope to get more of the consumer's dollar, you would wait and slowly roll these things out. I just think this is
and I think you also have the option with you were talking about the Retina display and why that might help people to do it.
Right.
If they give a deadline for Mountain Lion, and I think they will, let's say they say, okay, it'll be ready September. They could easily do the MacBook Pros now and say, yeah, it's going to be Retina. It'll pay off in September, but then they can release the iMacs in September. So they don't really have to say, operating system a couple of months from now, and you have to have the new hardware now, too. That will come.
Here's the problem, though. If they announce Retina capability in Mountain Lion, then everybody's going to say, okay, we see new Retina computers coming, and you kill all sales for the rest of the summer. Right?
Well, yeah. Or they could not play it up so much as they may not even have to mention it in as part of Mountain Lion, but rather just release it in a new MacBook Pro and just say, hey, it has a Retina display. Without dropping the other shoe, which is, and by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's another compelling reason to do it all at once, because what you don't want to do is kill existing sales. I mean, you can't talk, for instance, about an iPhone 5 now because you want to keep selling iPhone 4Ss until it comes out in September. If you are ready with new MacBook Pros, you should and if you're going to allude to anything that would make people confirm those, rumors that they're coming, then you'd better start selling them pretty quick because you're going to kill all sales until you do. I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to and the chat room's demanding this of me, so I'm going to do it. Buy one of each Apple product tomorrow. And then that way Apple can go ahead and just ship all the new stuff. Because I know they wait until I
Would you do that, Leo?
Yeah. I'm just going to, one of each, and then I'll just, there is product protection, right? How long does that typically go for, Chris? If you buy...
I think it's 30 days. I think you can take it back and get the other one.
So I should do that. And then in the 30 days, because I want if they ship the new thin MacBook Pro, I'm going to want that. If they do Retina, I'm going to want that. If they do a Thunderbolt on a Mac Pro, I'm going to want that. So I'm going to have to upgrade anyway. So I might as well just buy it.
Well, the thing is, Leo, though, that they've got your account tagged with a little red flag, and so as soon as you buy that stuff,
that's right. They're going to ship the new thing.
It'll show up and say, "Oh, this will be available in
now
this day." It'll be 1 day after that expires for you.
31 days later.
31 days later, it's like, and here it is, and there's Leo going,
oh, you could see me at this event, watching this event, and it ships August 1st. Oh, dear.
And that'll be the exclusive episode.
Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Well, that's why we have Gazelle. Thank goodness for Gazelle.com. Because if it weren't for Gazelle, I would be stuck with a lot of old Apple gear. Gazelle allows you to sell your iPhone, your iPad, your iPod, your Android smartphone, even your BlackBerry or your Nokia phone, so you can get the latest versions. Just select a product, scroll down there, see all right there. Oh, yeah. And then you pick those desktops that you want to get rid of, the laptops, the Apple display. I'm thinking I'm going to replace my 27-inch display, which I love, but I want the new Retina, right? So here's your chance. And by the way, when you get a quote from Gazelle.com, that quote's good for 30 days. So get the quote now, because I got to tell you, as soon as a new thing comes out, the price drops like crazy, right? So now's the time to go to Gazelle.com. Yeah, normal wear and tear. No, it's brand new. Okay, slight wear. Slight. It's pretty good shape. I dust it daily. Let's just see how much that's worth. Yeah, I got all this stuff. I don't have the original box, no. Let's see what that... Whoa! Okay, that's good. That's a third of the way towards my new display. And then, so here's the thing. You throw this stuff in the box. They pay the shipping. You don't have to worry about the shipping. And then you get a check or PayPal, or best yet, you can get an Amazon gift card and get an additional 5% because they rebate the Amazon affiliate fee to you. Whatever, yeah.
Leo, can I make the case for this type of thing as an environmentally friendly thing to do? Because a lot of people think, well, I'm just, I should hang on to my device and use it to the bitter end. But this is actually the most environmentally friendly thing you can do, is to upgrade as often as possible. Because what happens is, the reason is if you have a really good device and you sell it back, and they're going to sell it to somebody's going to be using that device, and it's still going to be in good shape. It's still going to be pretty new.
Right.
And that's really the solution. The only environmentally friendly gadget is the one that isn't manufactured. And the more people pass around previously owned devices, the fewer need to be manufactured.
Wow, I never even thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. Better than recycling. And that's why their slogan is keep it moving. Don't pile it up in the closet, in the drawer. Don't rent a space for your old gadgets. That's not helping anybody. Keep it moving. Pay it forward, Gazelle.com. You get cash, somebody else gets a brand new device, and everybody is happy. You're right. This is a great company, GAZELLE.com. Do it now. The sooner you do it, the more your gadget will be worth. And you definitely want a Gazelle before WWDC. Because if I'm right, everything changes on Monday the 11th. Everything.
Yep.
It's all up for grabs. Actually, it's Monday the 11th, right? Yeah, this Monday. In fact, what we're going to do, we're going to cover it, and then we'll do a MacBreak Weekly right after. In fact, Chris, if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you if you're not doing anything else. Mike, you too.
Will you have the dunce cap with you? Because
I will. You can. You don't have to wait 2 weeks. Next Monday, 6 days from now, you can mock me. You can say,
no. I mean, you
know what you could do?
Go the other way.
You could pull up the tape. You could say, Leo, let's review last week's MacBreak Weekly, in which you made a complete fool of yourself.
Because we have little check boxes where, like, Chris, wrong, Leo, right.
We should have a bingo. I'm sure there's a product bingo. Every time there's an announcement, they have a product bingo. And, boy, there's going to be a lot. We know, because it's a developers conference, that they will absolutely talk about iOS 6 and about Mountain Lion. And we know a lot about Mountain Lion because it's been in beta. We don't know much about iOS 6. It's been a while since the latest iOS. It's almost a year now since iOS 5 came out. There is a great rumor that I would love to have come true, that iOS 6 will bring full Siri integration into the iPad. You think so?
I do, yes. And I think not only I think the better news will be that Siri will be upgraded in some way that's
a smarter,
a little bit more dramatic. Well, for example, I think back in the old days, before Siri was part of iOS 5, it actually had some level of agency. You could actually make a restaurant reservation through OpenTable, and they were promising all kinds of other things where Siri would actually do things, not just give you information, but actually buy things and stuff like that. So I would love to see the next step of Siri, which is essentially go back to the old Siri, which is, to be able to go do things, go make a reservation. Yes, actually purchase and arrange for the delivery of flowers to my wife.
Which, by the way, the old Siri app could do.
Yes, absolutely.
So
and
they've got the capability.
These things they were going to do, and everybody was talking about the millions of possibilities.
You could make restaurant reservations, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I think agency, the general category of that type of activity is called agency, and I'd love to see agency in Siri more than even having it on the iPad.
Although I do understand why Apple pulled back a little bit, because Siri, even with the limited functionality it has, Apple just couldn't keep up with the demand, and Siri still sometimes just doesn't respond. Yeah. Although my experience has been much better than it was.
Yeah. My experience is the opposite. The first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it seemed to be great. Maybe I just had lower expectations then. I'm not sure, but I really struggle with Siri, and it has trouble. You have
I use it all the time.
Perfect voice, you have a really clear voice.
I say, Siri, please.
Yes.
Add to my shopping list And
exactly.
I enunciate.
The rest of us are mumbling and, stuff like that. So
I felt like such an idiot. I was walking down the street yesterday. I said, boom, boom, add toilet paper to my shopping list. And I looked up and there's somebody right in front of me. And I go, oh, geez, Louise. It can be embarrassing.
What was talking to you? Yeah.
Literally, that actually happened to me. And I was like, oh, God. It's one thing if you're with other people who use Siri. But, when somebody who doesn't really know what you're doing, sees you talking to your phone, add toilet paper. And I do enunciate. Add toilet paper to my shopping list.
I'm actually really excited.
Right, and it's far worse when you have to repeat it over and over.
I did. I had to repeat it once.
No, toilet paper.
Actually,
how else do I describe this to you?
I said one thing. I said Kleenex, and it added. What did it add to my shopping list? Something that I didn't change because I thought, well, I'll know what that. I'll know what that means. Oh no,
Klingons.
Clean next. Add clean next to my shopping list. All right.
Cannot find Kleenex near you. I'm
Siri,
really excited because
add extra small condoms to my shopping list. That was the embarrassing one. No, you got to be careful what you say.
Yes.
Out loud.
Last week, Alex recommended a headset that's super.
Yes,
I think it was last week.
Yeah,
super noise canceling. And I ordered one, and I'm just like so excited. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. So excited to use this thing, especially with Siri, because you can be in a really noisy room and you can whisper. So for the condom and the toilet paper, you can whisper to Siri. Siri, don't tell anyone. I need these. Yes. Exactly. So. And then you can, when Siri's done, you can say, "I need extra large condoms, please."
Well, I was relieved because I did think Siri might repeat it, and then Siri, when you're adding the shopping list, does not say, "Okay, Leo, I will add toilet paper to your." It doesn't say that. Thank God. It does repeat repeats your texts back to you. I guess that's so if you're driving, you can.
Yeah.
I would like to see, and well, of course, the other rumor of this Apple TV rumor is that there'll be Siri in the Apple TV. Now, interestingly, the thing that we can't ignore is that there's pressure on Apple because other people. Now, I don't know. Maybe Apple doesn't. And Andy and Akos have heard this for years that Apple doesn't care what other people are doing. But Microsoft at E3 yesterday announced capabilities in the Xbox that are actually going to challenge Apple TV in many ways, including Connect Speech.
I think they announced precisely the thing that Steve Jobs was referring to when he said we've cracked the code. And here's what that thing is. I would call it reverse AirPlay. So we have AirPlay. I don't think the general culture has caught on to the implications of AirPlay. AirPlay is you're watching something on your phone, you have some piece of media on an iPad or something, you say, you know what, play it on the TV, and you have this AirPlay mirroring, and whatever is on your mobile device shows up on the TV beautifully. And my son is really into this, and he's done some really amazing things with this. It's just so great. And when people try it, it's just revolutionary. But the really revolutionary thing is reverse AirPlay, to take anything on the TV and just bring it over to any device. Yeah. And once you can do both of those things,
AirPlay.
What happens is Apple becomes the gatekeeper, becomes the only necessary link in your overall entertainment chain, because people are going to be going in both directions with media. It's not something everybody's saying, and I've been saying too for a long time, gosh, I wish they would replace the whole cable thing and the whole dish network thing, but they don't need to yet. They can co-opt all of that by turning your iPad into a TV that uses your TV cable system.
I use HBO Go on my iPad, even though I have HBO on my TV, and it's really nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, but see, they talk about that. The HBO Go is in the Xbox as a cord cutting thing, but you can't use HBO Go unless you have an HBO subscription through a cable company.
I think the way Apple, and it's bigger than just TV and movies. I think Apple. My belief is that Apple looks at these screens not as this one's mobile, that one isn't mobile, this one's, I think the way they look at it is that how far is it from your face? An iPhone is going to be a foot from your face when you're using it as media. The iPad is going to be a foot and a half. A tablet or a desktop is going to be 2 to 3 feet away, maybe. And the TV is going to be further than 5 feet, 10 feet away. And those are the really use cases. So you're going to use your TV as in many of the same ways you're using your iPhone or iPad or desktop, and vice versa. And they're all just screens that you use that are of different sizes that you use from different distances from your eyes. And that, I think that's the vision. So it's everything is going to do everything.
So can we have you on next Monday when everything doesn't do everything and say, you are wrong?
Yes.
Everything does nothing.
Everything doesn't do anything.
I will be wrong, but I can almost guarantee you that more things will do more things. So I'll take that bet.
I like reverse AirPlay. That's a really interesting concept.
And that's essentially what the Xbox announcement is. You know?
Right. Well, I mean, it's very clear, and I actually had this in my speeches from 15 years ago, that what people want with media is they want what they want, when they want it, anywhere they want it, without any restrictions. It's just, you know, so if I have a platform, if I have a screen, I want to be able to watch whatever I want on that screen. And I don't. If I have a copy in one place, it should be everywhere.
You know what the biggest restriction is with the way most people watch TV? It's the interface that the cable company gives you, the clunky thing with the big remote with the millions of buttons, and then you're sitting there trying to navigate through this clunky thing from the 80s that just chunks down. Where is that show? I don't know where the show. You search, it doesn't work. It's awful, and that's really such a big barrier for people who were used to just clicking and watching.
Yeah. What about Facebook integration? Remember last week when Tim Cook was on stage at All Things D, Chris Breen, he said, stay tuned. He said, we love Facebook. Yeah. There's deep integration of Twitter. Facebook's missing. Do you think iOS 6 will suddenly have deep Facebook integration?
I think it will. I think this is a change with Tim Cook.
Yeah, this is Tim.
Versus Steve Jobs.
Yep.
This is Tim's. I think that Steve Jobs was not happy with Facebook originally when they conceived Ping. It was supposed to interface with Facebook, and if it had, it would have been more successful than it was. But Jobs talked about Facebook's onerous terms. So even though I think he admired Zuckerberg and Facebook, he felt that they were a competitor, somebody that he wanted to dominate, and it turned out that Facebook wasn't going to go along with it. I think Tim Cook has come in with a more reasonable idea, doesn't want to challenge Facebook, but rather partner with them where it makes sense, particularly after Apple has shown that it doesn't do social networking very well. So I think that once Steve was gone and they had a chance to clear the air, Apple and Facebook got together and said, okay, let's see how we can do this to our mutual benefit. And so, yes, I think we're going to see a lot of Facebook hooks built into iOS 6. So anything that you create or consume, you're going to be able to link onto your Facebook page, and stuff that's on Facebook, you're going to be able to bring into iOS 6 pretty easily.
I think there's going to be some Facebook integration, but I think it's going to be limited indefinitely because Facebook's only benefit to Apple, other than the fact that they have gazillions and gazillions of users, is that they're sort of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of a thing, and they're not Google. And I think it's part of the thermonuclear war for Apple to partner to a certain extent with Facebook. But I haven't seen any evidence. There are these statements that are being trotted out as evidence that Apple is really, really excited to get really, really close to Facebook. And I haven't. There is no evidence for that. The things that Tim Cook said at All Things D were, the kind of generic things that you say about a company. So, we really respect and like the company, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was, it was. Those are the kinds of things you say about a company that is a major company that you're not openly at war with. And I think there'll be some integration, but I don't think it will or should get anywhere near Twitter integration. Twitter is a fantastic social partner for Apple in many, many ways. Remember what happened in September? Facebook came out with all these things that were alternatives to using Apple as your main source of media. New York Times called it the Internet's primary entertainment hub. They started partnering with all of Apple's competitors, Spotify and all these other things, and not just competitors in terms of sources for music and media and movies, but the whole approach to how you discover and find and use and consume content. And Facebook just boldly plowed right into that direct competitive thing. And there are all kinds of ways of doing that. For example, on iOS, Facebook is trying to replace Apple apps and essentially hijacking the iOS user experience. For example, they came out with Facebook Messenger, which is a separate app from the Facebook app that pretty much competes directly with iMessage. They came out with a camera app last week that competes directly with the camera app.
Well, it also competes with Instagram, which they own. So that doesn't mean Facebook knows what it's doing. It means, in fact, that is the bizarrest thing I've ever seen.
But it means
they buy Instagram for $1 billion, then a month later release a duplicate product, even though they don't own it. Instagram didn't even close. So Facebook, it doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't know what it's doing, but you know, it's like you couldn't conceive of Apple, say, partnering with Amazon. Because they're
natural enemies.
Natural enemies. And to a very large extent, Facebook is a natural enemy as well, because Facebook wants everybody to, instead of using Apple's services, and there's even rumors that Facebook's going to launch a phone using Apple engineers and Apple people.
Right. They've hired a bunch, apparently.
The iPhone. Yeah. So
I think Apple should just laugh at that one. Go ahead.
Well, but they don't like, whether it will succeed or not, I think is really different from the fact that they like partners who aren't going to get anywhere near any of their core businesses, like Twitter. Twitter doesn't get anywhere near anything Apple does. They don't pretend to be the Internet's entertainment hub. They don't. Right. They don't try to replace all of Apple's
and Facebook apps. Is potentially a huge competitor.
Yes. Yeah. So I think Apple should buy Twitter. And even though it'll cost them $10 billion or something like that, which is an unusually large acquisition for Apple. But I just think Twitter is a perfect fit for Apple in so many ways.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
I disagree. I think, well, first of all, I'd like to go back to the competitive aspects of it. I don't think Spotify is a competitor to Apple's business at all.
Really?
It's a completely different model.
If you want to buy the music, it actually will send you to iTunes, won't it?
You go to iTunes. So what you do is you bring all that whole Facebook music initiative is all about streaming, and it's all about discovery. As we've discovered from Ping has nothing to do with discovery. It's terrible at it.
Right.
So if you were to integrate something
by the way,
like
I think Tim Cook implied that this was good. This was a mistake, and they're going to
Yeah, it's dead.
It's dead.
So, but if you integrate into the music app, for example, on your iOS device, something like Facebook's music initiative, so it can be Spotify or Mog or it can be Rhapsody. Yeah. You have the opportunity to stream some of this stuff, and when it comes time to buy, that's when you're directed to the iTunes store. I think that's complementary. I don't think it's something where you're talking about a competitive nature.
But I do agree with Mike that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I mean, Facebook and Google Plus are deep enemies.
Yeah,
and you're never going to see Google Plus on iPhone.
Yeah, but look at what the models are really about. Yes, they're both intended to sell your information to other people for advertising, but take it down a level. And really, Facebook is about people and connecting to people, and Google is not at all about that, even with Google Plus.
Right.
I don't think that works. So yes, they are enemies at a particular level, but I do think that they're separate enough where an alliance with Facebook in some circumstances makes sense, particularly that people connection, because, again, Apple doesn't do that very well.
Right. What else are we going to – so Siri, better Siri, Facebook integration, possibly. What else will be new in Well, some stuff we know, don't we? Or do we not know? Is it all
Maps?
Oh, that's right. So tomorrow, Google is having a map event in which they're going to announce the new Google Maps, hoping to steal a little thunder. By the way, this never works, guys. You should know better. From Apple's announcement on June 11th, the following Monday, that they're dumping Google Maps in iOS 6, and they're going to have this incredible map app. They are, by the way, encouraging everybody who uses mapping to start using their mapping API. I didn't know this, but I saw an article that they actually started a new location service in iOS some time ago. And they've been encouraging developers to use this for some time. So they're kind of ready to move on a completely new map system, yes?
Yeah.
Well, plus they've killed GPS completely.
What do you mean?
GPS units. I mean, why? Well, why would you go out and buy a Garmin unit?
But
now?
this is but that's the point. On Android, you've got turn by turn through the Google Maps, through the Navigator, and you don't on iOS. You have to buy a turn by turn.
Yeah, but that does come with this next. Yeah, but turn by turn is part of it.
So that's
right?
the deal.
So, and if you have Siri integration, where you're in your car and you've got your iPhone, and you just say, "Oh, wait, I need to stop at a drugstore before I continue on," Siri says, "Oh, okay. Well, turn left here, take a right here. Here's the map. There you are. Where do you want to go now? I want to go back. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and do that."
Maps and location is like the key to the future of mobile marketing, and everybody knows it. And I think that's part of what's behind what's going on here. I mean, last week Google announced the integration of Zagat into Maps and Google Plus, and this is an example of the kind of thing that Apple's going to want a piece of. When the basic function. One of the things we use our phones most for is, where am I going? I need to find a Starbucks. Where can I find a gas station? Where's a good restaurant? And all that stuff, in both the case of Google and Apple, is all going to voice assistants. You just say it and you'll get the answer, and here's a map and all that stuff. So getting people to use your mapping application is going to be really important for both Apple and Google. And so this makes perfect sense for Apple to do this, although it kind of drags Apple out of the hardware, software integrated thing into the content management business. Because once you get into Maps, you get into all kinds of, you have to constantly be managing, bad maps, and you have partners that, aggregate the satellite feeds.
But you can't crowdsource that. I mean, that's one advantage of putting it on a phone, and one advantage that Google has had is that every phone, and by the way, which Google is about to lose, every phone as it goes around is giving you new data.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Google Maps is not going to be on iOS takes 50 million devices out of Google's database, I think is not insignificant.
It is not.
And I think it's going to be spun as, Steve Jobs hated, I'm going to kill thermonuclear war against Google, and it isn't. It's as you said, Mike. This is it's profit. This is a good business, and Apple wants to be in it. Why should they cede it to Google? Why shouldn't they have this? And they're going to have we already know they want to put traffic data into it from that kerfuffle about saving the data, the location data on the phone.
I also think that Apple is very good at identifying user experiences that are horrible and seeing them for what they are, which are opportunities for Apple to present wonderful. I actually think that I use Google Maps on the iPhone constantly, and I hate it. It's really bad. First of all, I use it on iOS, so there's
it's much better on Android. It's so much better on Android.
You can't read the instructions. They changed. They actually made it worse recently because they now have this blue line and they have multiple options, and then the location of where you are is also blue. So, I'm over the age of 40 slightly by a couple of weeks. Kidding. I'm significantly older than 40. But, I don't wear my reading glasses when I'm driving. I think probably half the population doesn't wear reading glasses while driving. And so, that's when you're not supposed to when you're driving, but that's when people use the Maps app most. And I can't, it's so hard to read what it says. It's so hard to see where I am on the blue line. It's just the fundamental, basic, simplest use of this thing is just on the border of being useless. The only thing that makes it good is the fact that the map itself is really great. The user interface is horrible. And I'm counting on Apple to do something better.
Well, I think this is one thing that we all agree is going to happen in iOS 6. In fact, even the Wall Street Journal, which seems to have kind of an inside track to Apple, says that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mountain Lion. What do we know about Mountain Lion, Chris Breen? Is there any? Is it rumors, or is there some? Well, I guess they've been pushing out developer versions, so developers know some stuff.
Yeah, they're on developer version 3, I think, or preview 3.
Yeah.
So we know things like Gatekeeper, which we were talking about earlier.
Gatekeeper's cool. I like Gatekeeper.
Yeah, I think it is too. But again, we kind of go back to that argument: is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you don't have to
a good compromise.
So so tell me about Gatekeeper. My sense of it is that you can turn off or on Gatekeeper. So if you turn it on, it will only install apps that have a certificate, right?
Well, yeah. There's the 3 levels. It's App Store only.
App Store only. So
right, and then there's the
which you would turn on for the highest level of security, presumably.
Right. And then there's everything open, which is, hey, do what you want. And
Right.
that's what we enjoy.
But see,
now.
I like that. I mean, that's what Android does. It says you can get stuff from third party. It's not safe. Or you can be locked down like iOS is. And I like the switch. I like the button. I don't want them to take out the button.
Right.
So I think Gatekeeper's huge. Some say that that Mountain Lion will be at a TV OS as well. Or will they have something separate for an Apple? Or do you believe, Alex Lindsay's like on record saying there's no way Apple's ever going to do a TV. Where do you stand on the new television from Apple?
Well, I think that they will have one, but I think they'll also have a kind of kit that turns your regular TV into one. So it'll be a box plus maybe a motion control.
So you could
thing.
use the existing Apple TV plus some additional hardware, perhaps, or something like that.
Yeah, or there'll be a new. I've heard some pretty compelling speculation that there could be a strip-like thing that looks kind of like Kinect, that does motion capture and all the rest, maybe voice recognition stuff. But then they'll go ahead and sell a TV with all that built in. I don't see why they wouldn't build a TV. The numbers are never going to be huge. They're never going to be like, the iPhone or anything like that, or even the iPad. But why not? They already have the manufacturing capability. They already have designs. Why not just make it just look exactly like an iMac? And build a TV with an incredible display and all of the Apple TV stuff built in. I think it'd be cool, and a lot of people would buy it.
Is that what you think's going to happen, Chris?
No, I'm going to be disagreeable.
No, I like it. If we all agree, it's no fun at all.
Oh, okay. Well,
I disagree. I think we should all agree.
I disagree. You're wrong.
Yeah. I think there are a few things that problems that I have with this, although I think it would be cool. I agree with that. One is that we don't turn over our TVs every year or two, which we do with the iOS devices. They're expensive. So look at a $1,500 TV, and people tend to hang on their TVs for 6 years or so.
It's not a good business. Not a good business.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a terrific business. I think it would be great to have that little Apple logo on my television set, but I think that the Apple TV strategies already exists, and I think people aren't paying attention to it, which is that the Apple TV, as we know it now, is really just a portal.
Right.
So you've got, your controller is this thing, and your content is coming from this thing.
Why build a TV at all when you could just make the existing Apple TV be the thing? Now, I have to say that Tim Cook was not crazy about the Apple TV and this All Things D thing. He said, yeah, sales have doubled, but it's still not he implied it was what did he say? The fifth leg of a stool?
There are a few reasons to do a physical TV.
Okay.
One of them is that the alternatives to not do a TV. So if they're profitable, then additional revenue is better than no additional revenue. Secondly, it screws Samsung. Thirdly, it's a kind of branding. People spend hours and hours and hours staring at their TV, and if it has an Apple logo on it, that has some unmeasurable benefits for Apple as a brand. And like I said before, they have economies of scale. They have the relationships with all the manufacturers. I just think it's, if I were to say, you make let's say I go to somebody who makes $100,000 a year, and I say, you make $100,000 a year, so $20 is not much for you. But would you like $20 or would you like not $20? You take the 20. I just think I just can't think of a downside for them to do it.
I don't know.
Well, but I have a TV.
Yeah,
I've got a big TV. Yeah. So why wouldn't I want to buy a $99 box? Or let's say that they're going to build.
But Mike's saying they'll do both.
32 gigabytes of storage in it.
Right.
Yeah, they could do both, but again, I just think if I can have a 32 gigabyte box for say $200 that has an app store connected to it.
I don't think there'll be any storage. I don't think they'll do storage. I think storage is dead. I think streaming is what everybody, including the content creators, want. They don't like the idea of storage.
Yeah, I like that, except the problem I have is that if let's say you want to play a massive game on that thing, you have to have an iOS device. Yeah. So if you have because they have 8 gigabytes in it now just for buffering.
Right.
But if you're going to have an app store, and I think maybe that could happen, then you do need some kind of storage in there. But then you need a controller as well. And and that's where I get twisted around, because I don't think that Apple wants to try to build a controller. What they want to do is depend on you own.
They don't want to build a Pippin. But I have to say, this is where Microsoft is going. I mean, the new Xbox, the way that what they're doing with the Xbox is head on, dead set against Apple. The only negative is it's kind of interesting. Won't work. It will only work on Windows, Windows Phone, and Xbox. They don't have it on anything else. So, well, you think they will? It's funny because when iTunes came out, remember the big battle that Walter Isaacson talks about in the biography, where Steve said, we'll never put this on Windows. And everybody says, Steve, you're nuts. You got to put this on Windows. And finally, Apple did put it on Windows. And, of course, it's more iPods are sold to Windows users than are to Mac users.
Right. I just think that, that Apple's Uber strategy, not to beat this to death, but I think that they go after the major content consumption platforms.
Yeah, they'll go after iOS. They have to.
And but So
actually, they're telling me that in the press conference they did say iOS and Android. I did not realize that. Okay.
Yeah, but I do think both. I don't think it's obviously not going to go the other way. When Apple does reverse AirPlay, it's not going to go to the Windows Phone probably, and so I think that's just an indication of where the market power is.
This is very exciting times.
Yes.
Some of the rumors, this is from Boy Genius Report, that Mountain Lion will share many features with iOS 6, along with iMessage. They already got that message app that's been beta, which is... Do you use that, Chris Breen? It's so crappy.
Yeah, it is crappy.
It's
I tried it for a while, and I stopped using it. I went back to iChat.
The only time I use it, though, is when I'm like in a long text messaging session with somebody on the iPhone, and then I can at least launch it on the desktop and start using a real keyboard. So that's one...
Well, that's why I use it, because I like to use it on my iPad with the keyboard.
Right.
I spend a lot of time with my iPad and the keyboard.
Right.
And every single person in my family has an iOS device, and so it's just a really nice way to chat with a full-size keyboard.
Yeah, but then you get too fast for everybody.
Yeah.
They're on a phone and you're going...
Yeah, and they're like, hey.
Do not disturb feature, which would be kind of cool, especially if you've got iMessage and Game Center on there.
How many things are in your notification in the settings? I've got several dozen things that are all popping up notifications. That do not disturb thing is going to be really handy.
And if you're going to put notifications on the desktop, which apparently they're going to do, you'll want the same thing. Chris, have you seen it? Does it slide? It doesn't slide down from the top. It slides from the side, right, on the desktop?
Yeah, it comes in from the side. So you can, it's much like your phone, except you don't have to do this. It's just there's a little blue button up in the corner.
Yeah.
You click on it, or when notification, it's like Growl too.
It's Growl.
A little pop-up shows up and says, oh, by the way, here's this. And you can decide whether you want to have that kind of notification or you don't.
BGR also says iCloud tabs support. What's that? I don't know what that is on Mountain Lion. Oh, tabs, syncing tabs on your browser? Is that what they mean? I don't know what that means. Mail VIPs.
It's kind of like Google's Gmail's, priority
mailbox.
Yeah.
I like that. Doesn't work for me very well on Google, but it'd be nice if Apple did it right. Apple's iCloud tabs allows users to sync open Safari browser tabs across Mac and iOS devices. This is something that's in Chrome, the new Chrome. Mail VIPs will let users designate VIPs to allow select emails to stand out. So it is like Priority Inbox, except it's you doing it by hand. Google tries to do it programmatically.
Again, everything they've been doing in the last couple of years has been leading toward the idea that there are screens here, a screen in your pocket, a screen over there, a screen on the TV, and whichever screen you walk up to, it's the same thing that you see, the same tabs on your browser, the same email, same everything, same features. Yeah.
You want that, Chris Breen?
Sure. I just want it to work, which is generally what I want from iCloud altogether. So, that's the main thing I want from Mountain Lion. I want iCloud to work, and I want Siri to work, and I want all this stuff just to work the way it was designed to work. The demos are great, but in real use, sometimes you do things with iCloud, and you get triplicates of this and duplicates of that.
No, but it just works.
So they say. It's a good marketing line.
Let's see. All right. Let's just go through a couple of quick stories, and then we'll get our tips and picks and all of that stuff. Netflix is now #1 in the online movie business, dethroning iTunes for the first time ever. A new report by IHS iSupply said that in 2011, Netflix share of the online movie market jumped from 0.5% to 44% in 1 year. Apple fell from 60% in 2010 to 32.3%. So kind of a shift. And Netflix was just not there, and all of a sudden they're huge in streaming. Number 3
and
player.
Isn't that interesting when everybody was going to leave Netflix, right?
Yeah.
When the price thing went into, and so everybody said, "No, that's it. I'm quitting Netflix."
I had a Netflix disc subscription and streaming, which gets kind of expensive. I finally, because we had 5 discs, I looked at the TV; they were all dusty from August of last year that I had never watched.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm paying like $35 a month for nothing. So I mailed them all back, and I went to streaming only. And I know I'm not alone. I think a lot of people, that's what they use Netflix for.
The thing that they don't talk about in this report enough is that it's a different customer, and this is often the case with Apple. It's a better customer, and the reason is that Apple offers a lot more newer movies, and the quality of those movies are significantly higher.
But you pay for them.
You pay for them. You pay for them, yes. And so they're going after the people with deep pockets who have more, who have more
disposable
timely
income.
taste. I mean, it's not the people who are watching rerun, Major Pain again. It's the people who are,
But the Apple TV gives you both, and so that's what I really like. If I want to watch a late, hot movie that just came out, I can watch that on iTunes. But I've also got Netflix there. I just bought Sherlock. The PBS Sherlock series on iTunes because I want to see that. It's not on Netflix, but the previous year is on Netflix. So, I think it's a 1-2 punch. I don't think there's a winner.
No,
there.
it's great for the users to have everything, but when this report compares.
It is a big jump.
Market share with Apple. It's kind of like market share in the phone business. Apple does not have the majority of share in the phone business, but it has 3/4 of the profit or something like that. Because it's a different. They target the sweet spot of the market yet again.
Apple. Let's see. So. This is an article that you wrote in March, Chris Breen, Understanding the Aim of Apple TV. And this is kind of what you were saying earlier. That it is the TV.
Yeah, that's it. That it's people are looking at, Apple has to release a TV and they don't. I mean, we already have it. The technology is already there. And this came up because All Things D published a story yesterday basically saying the same thing. And people were tweeting about it. I said, well, I said that in March because I'm another guy on the internet, who has to say, I wrote that.
I wrote that.
Yeah, but that's what I said on my blog. And of course, it's true. So that's the idea is that the Apple TV is the portal that – and I've talked to Apple about it. And, they won't confirm or deny, but they sort of say, you put your content on your iPad and you have AirPlay, or with Mountain Lion, you put your stuff on your Mac and you'll have AirPlay there where you have complete mirroring. And that's how we think you work it.
Although, as you point out, right now, you can't do AirPlay with HBO Go or Hulu.
Unless you jailbreak.
Because there's a switch that says no mirroring.
Right. And this is the whole thing about the Apple, the real Apple TV or the fake one, is that there are really 2 levels of going at this. One is the app level, and that Apple can completely control. The other is content, and they can't. And the problem is that these content companies really want to undermine Apple as much as they can because they desperately want to hang on to their satellite and cable businesses. So when let's say Apple were to release a real live TV and people would turn it on and say, great, now I can cut the cable because I have access to all this content. Well, no, you don't, because the cable companies won't let you cut the cable, nor will the satellite companies. They want to hold on to that material. So, really what you're looking at is a device that's going to deliver what internet content exists, like TWiT, for example, and applications. But in terms of traditional content, no, that's not going to happen. So use the Apple TV for that kind of content, and you'll be happy. But if you plunk down $1,500 on a real TV and find out that you can't cut the cable, then more people are going to be disappointed.
I had a couple more quickie stories. One is about a new airline, Scoot, which is I guess, a budget airline. I'm not sure where they fly, but they bought a bunch of planes from Singapore Air that had, big entertainment systems on them. They took them out, saving on average 2 tons per plane, and then now they'll rent you an iPad on the plane for $17. Yeah, I think it's a Singaporean airline. It is brilliant. I don't see people watching the entertainment systems anymore on any of these planes. If you have an iPad, you're better off.
Yeah. They're upgradable. They're modular. If one breaks, you just swap it out. It's cheap. It's familiar. The only reason not to do it is if there's turbulence, everybody's going to get clocked with one of these iPads.
Well, they just tether it to your tray table.
Yeah, lock it down. I think it's a great idea. We've seen this other airlines, hand out devices, but this is, and frankly, I wouldn't fly anywhere without an iPad. This is the only way to fly now.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to end up in the same situation, where people, it used to be the airlines would rent you headsets or headphones, and
yes.
Why? Because we all have them now. So look 5 years down the line, and pretty soon, it's like, well, they're not going to be showing movies on the plane anymore. Because why? We've all got some device to do that.
We don't need that. And it saves a lot of fuel. One of the reasons you want to take 2 tons out of that plane is it saves you a huge amount. Fuel is like 40 or 50% of the cost of the flight.
As the obesity crisis grows, we need to find ways to lighten up the load.
It's a lot easier to be a budget airline in Singapore than it is in the U.S. I can tell you that right now. Aaron Sorkin, I won't say no more. Aaron Sorkin, also at All Things D, talked with Walt Mossberg, said he's working on the Steve Jobs movie based on the Isaacson biography. He says it's going to be a painting, not a photograph. Oh, that sounds bad. The problem is, unlike The Social Network, where only a few nerds really knew the story of Facebook, everybody knows the Steve Jobs story kind of intimately. You can't bend the rules as much as he did in the Facebook movie. He says, I can't judge the character. For me, it has to be a hero. I have to defend the character. You want to write the character like they're making the case to God why they should go to heaven. So I guess we get some idea of how he's going to treat Steve Jobs' unique idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, and it sounds like, and I'd like to see it focus on the wilderness years. The whole gut-wrenching experience of being drummed out of the company, trying to launch his own company, and then coming back, and it was really that whole experience was really the thing that made Steve Jobs the person who was able to give us the Apple that we have today. It was really a new Steve Jobs who really understood how to do things. He was a loose cannon, volatile kid before then, who was just kind of like out of control. And then when he came back, this was a masterful CEO. And
I like that. There's drama in every bit of Steve Jobs' career. There's all sorts of exciting drama. The young years, what he's with Woz, and he's a hacker. But I do think you're absolutely right that if you start with him being fired, or maybe you start with him hiring Scully and then being fired, and then you go through the wilderness years and then the triumphant return, that's a nice arc.
Yeah.
And I think that he says, he's not going to do a cradle-to-grave narrative. I'm probably going to instead identify the point of friction that appeals to me and write about that. I think that you might be right. That would be a great movie.
And this is, by the way, for those not following this too closely, this is not the Ashton Kutcher version.
That's a different one.
And that's a different one. And the fact that they hired Ashton Kutcher indicates that they're going to focus. That one is going to focus on the younger Steve Jobs, because Kutcher doesn't look anything like the 50-plus-year-old Steve Jobs. He looks like the 27-year-old.
Photographer Henry Hargreaves, deep fat fried Apple gadgets, and they look tasty. There's a deep fat fried iPhone, deep fat fried MacBook Air, an iPod.
More proof that deep fried anything is not good for you. Are those screens powered? They seem to have icons and things.
I don't see how they could possibly be powered, but they do look that way. This MacBook does not look like it's in good shape.
No.
Wow. They're funny, I guess, in a painful sort of way.
Well, they couldn't find a blender big enough for the MacBook, so I guess they figured a deep fat fryer was.
It's an indication of the iconic nature of Apple devices, though. If you did this with a Samsung Galaxy something or other, they wouldn't have gotten any press attention.
Did you love Harry McCracken's review of the Newton?
That was awesome.
In the Technologizer blog, techland.time.com, he decided, hey, the Newton is 20 years old. This would be a good time to go back and review it as if it were brand new.
This is one of those things when I read it, it just pisses me off because I should have done that. What a brilliant idea.
Well, we were all there. 20 years ago, we were in this business. We were.
Well, to me, the starkest fact that he uncovered was the horrid quality of the screen.
The screen's terrible.
One of the things that screens are kind of a funny thing, and Apple clearly knows this. When I upgraded from the iPad 2 to the iPad, I thought, well, that's a better screen. I really like the screen. It's a fairly gentle. To go to a better screen is a fairly gentle process. To go back to an older screen is traumatic and unacceptable. And to go that far back to that much older of a screen, he said it was just it was a darkish green on lightish green.
There's no contrast.
Yeah. And the thing that he pointed out was nobody really complained about the screen back then.
That was good. And people were really focused on the thing that was unique. It was handwriting. It recognized handwriting, sort of. It was somewhat smart. You could make an appointment, something like write lunch with Mike, and it would kind of know. I mean, there were some cool things about that. Chris, you were covering Apple back in 1992, weren't you?
Oh yeah, and I still have my Newton 2100, and I fired it up the other day just to.
It's nice. It uses regular batteries, so you just put regular batteries in, and it launches. Mine too. I have a couple.
Yeah, I haven't touched the thing in 10 years, and I just threw some new batteries in it. And went, oh my god, it still works.
Yeah,
but you're right. I mean, you go back to it and kind of go.
Look at the connectors. I mean, you had to have all these to put a modem in it. You had to have a PC card modem. The little things like that. And I think remember, this is not a Steve Jobs product. This is a John Scully product.
Yeah. It was the victim of a kind of a witch hunt, though, in the press and by Gary Trudeau of
remember that?
Yeah. Who just, there was a vicious campaign against the handwriting recognition and a lot of mockery. And it sort of went down in history as a laughable product because of that. And then a year or two, I don't know how, very shortly thereafter, the Palm Pilot came out that used the same graffiti technology. And it was a little better because it was a little newer, I think.
Actually, the Pilot, my memory is that Jeff Hawkins looked at the Newton and said, here's the problem with the Newton. They did sell them I believe they sold them the handwriting recognition. It's trying to use a normal alphabet, right? And the thing about graffiti was you had to you modified a few letters instead of using a normal alphabet, and was like 100% more accurate. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah, because the Newton was too fiddly in terms of the handwriting recognition. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. It got better with different software releases. But, the Palm folks looked at it and went, oh,
we could do better.
Let's just simplify this.
Right.
And they did, and they killed. I mean, they totally killed for a number of years.
Jeff's book on intelligence, he talks, I think, as I remember, he talks about it and said, I had the insight that you couldn't make the computer come to you. You couldn't go to the computer. You had to make the computer come to you. You had to make the alphabet easier instead of trying to get the computer to understand how you could write. And even today, pure handwriting recognition is not very easy to do. Graffiti was much more accurate. Apple has denied its ban on the Samsung Galaxy Tab sales, but it's on a technicality. The judge has sent it back to a federal court where it's possible it still could. But this was a little blow against Apple in their attempt to keep Samsung out of the U.S., I think that's it for the main stories. I'm so glad you guys are here. I really appreciate it. Let's get to our picks of the week. I don't know if Chris, if you had. Oh yeah, Chris, we've got one. I don't know if Mike, if you had time to do a pick of the week.
I do.
All right. Well, let's start with Chris Breen, and then we'll get to you, and I'll wrap her up.
Okay. I have recently jailbroken my iPad 3.
Really?
Because there's now there's a jailbreak out for it called Absinthe. And then Snowbreeze has also been updated so that you can now jailbreak your devices with an A5 chip in them. And so I I often want to capture the screen for motion video on my devices. And so there are some jailbreak apps that will do that. One of them is called Display Recorder. And I don't know if you guys got the copy of the video I sent, but I put one in a Dropbox somewhere.
Oh. Well, I'll get Chad to look for that.
Yeah, that's what the interface looks like. It's in the show notes thing.
Okay.
And it's $5, so you have to get it through the Cydia store.
Right.
And what it will do is you just hold down your sleep button for about a second, and then up pops a little dialog box, and it says, would you like to start recording? Yes. And then it will record anything that you're doing on your iOS device at the time.
That's
you can,
great.
and also, it will also put a little dot wherever you tap. And so a lot of times when you're presenting and using something like AirPlay to do this, you can't see where you're tapping.
Where's the finger?
You have to tell the audience. Yeah,
here's
my
his
finger
video.
is here. Okay, yeah. Here's the video.
So you recorded this directly, and there's
app.
a little dot. Wow, that's really great. It's one of the things we tried to decide with the iPad today. Should we just show, because we could take HDMI out, but it's weird because you can't see where the finger is. So we actually shoot the screen for that reason. But this is nice. I like this.
Yeah. So again, you have to jailbreak to do it, but it's just $5. And then it will store the video on your device, and you can send it up to Facebook or to YouTube if you want to. You can also send it to the camera roll, or you can turn on a little server button, and it will give you an address. You go in with a web browser on your computer, get into on the same network, and then you can download the videos directly to your Mac, and then send them out any way you like.
Very nice. Very cool.
By the way, it's by a guy named Ryan Petrick.
So
and he does another tool called Display Out.
So jailbreak using Absinthe. Is that what you used? Is that your favorite?
It was the first one to come out. And so, because whenever a new exploit comes out and I can jailbreak, I do. Because I use exactly this technology for that. So that's what I use. But now the other tools have been updated so you can jailbreak the current version of the OS. You don't have to downgrade. You can use 5.11. Of course, if 6 comes out next week, then we'll have to wait for another.
Do you think it'll come out next week, or will it be when the iPhone 5 comes out in the fall? It'll be in the fall, right?
I think it's later. Yeah, I think that they have to preview this for developers because, developers haven't seen this at all. Right. So they need time to get things ready for
And September also for Mountain Lion? Or wait a minute. No, they said it'd be this summer, didn't they? Yeah,
well, summer technically goes until September 22nd.
But it could be, or could it be next week, Mountain Lion?
Yeah, I don't think there's been enough activity on the developer site for that to be so. We should be seeing a lot of stuff, even GM by now, and none of that's happened. So I think they're at least a month out.
Good point. But if they announce new Macs and they said shipping June 21st or shipping August 1st or whatever with Mountain Lion, that would make sense. Right. Yeah,
sure.
Mike Elgan, your pick of the week.
Yes, my pick of the week is surprising, I hope, because it's something everybody's heard about for a long time. It's the Apple Bluetooth mobile keyboard. However, my pick is the use of this keyboard as a mobile device. I recommend that. I've been doing this for some time, and it's just been the most fantastic thing ever. I use my keyboard with my iPad incessantly, and I also use it with my iPhone, which I rarely see anybody doing. But what the usage model, I would recommend a Waterfield keyboard slip. This is a little case, little $30 case for the keyboard. Fits right in there, which protects the keyboard and makes it more. You can toss it around, stuff like this. I just kind of leave the keyboard in my car or in my backpack. And whenever I want to, if I've got a couple minutes and I'm sitting around and I just got my phone, I grab the keyboard and blog something from the phone. And it's just fantastic to always have a keyboard. I also happen to think that this Bluetooth keyboard is the very best keyboard I've ever used. I like it better for reasons I don't quite understand than the wired keyboard that Apple offers. And I like it better than the keyboards built into the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. It's just a great, great keyboard, and and I bring it with me everywhere, and I think everybody should try doing that. It's just a wonderful thing to have with you all the time.
Have you tried the Logitech Ultra Thin keyboard yet?
I have not. I've heard about it.
It's kind of cool. I mean, first of all, it uses the smart magnets, so it's a smart cover, And then when you open the iPad, the magnet goes into the slot on the keyboard. Yeah. So it's a stand as well. And it's I have the Bluetooth keyboard from Apple. I have it's comparable. It does have, which is nice, iOS keys. Like there's cut. I didn't even know iOS could do cut, copy, and paste. Well, it can with these keys. There's a home key. Yeah. There's a search key, which is kind of cool. It'll go to the search. It has some nice features, volume keys.
The iOS also do Command V and Command C and all that stuff.
Okay, so that's obviously it's built into iOS or it wouldn't work. But
yeah. But in general, I strongly recommend that people not be locked in the idea that the iPhone and iPad don't have physical keyboards. They can just buy one and use it, and it's great.
Interesting. All right, I got 2 picks. First, from Encyclomedia, a tip. This is an iOS or a Mac OS 10 Lion tip. We were complaining earlier about the fact that the library folder wasn't visible. Very simple terminal command using CH flags. Thank you, Encyclomedia. CH flags, no hidden, ~/library/ unhides the library folder. That's nice. So now let me see if my library folder, when I open Finder, do I see and I go to my home. Let's see if I see my library in there. No. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Hallelujah. All right, so thank you, Encyclomedia. But my pick is not that. It's actually an iOS app that just came out that I found out about from Laughing Squid called Stilla. Have you seen this, guys, yet?
Oh.
Stilla. It is a 3D photography app. So I'll launch the camera, and what you do is you take pictures. You take a series of pictures. It uses the gyroscope in the camera. It's got a pretty nice user interface. And if I go back and I can show you, I've recently done some pictures of my microphone, and it turns it into a kind of a 3D microphone picture thing.
Wow, it's like being on acid.
It's got a now I have to try it with taking more images. It might be the more images you take, the less, because you have this weird transition effect in between the images. But what a great way! And by the way, you can then post it to the Stilla site and link from there to here. I'll put up this is the Stilla site, stil.la, and then when you link it, say on a Facebook, it does use WebGL. So you have to have, you can zoom and move and all that stuff. It's not very good, is it? In fact, I do feel like I'm on acid right now. But an interesting app. I think perhaps I could perfect the 3D image a little bit.
That's cool.
But isn't that kind of neat? And if you had a product shot that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, like when my Galaxy S3 comes, I'll do this. Something you can't do on a Galaxy S3. I'll take 3D images. I only took like 5 or 6 images. I bet you if you took more, you could get a more refined 3D shot.
Yeah, and if you had it on a little tripod or something,
there you go.
Was it always at exactly the same height?
You don't need to, because it's using the accelerometer, the gyroscope, to position it. So they say you don't need to. See, look at that. Is that wild? So this is a new kind of
very nice.
Yeah, it's $1.99 on the iPhone App Store. It is called Stilla, Stilla, and you get a free account with the Stilla website where you can post your Stillas because obviously you need something special to play them back. WebGL. In fact, it takes a few steps to turn on WebGL. I didn't even know you could in Safari. You have to turn on the developer menu and then enable WebGL. But you can do that in Safari or use Chrome. They say it's easier to just use Chrome. So that's my pick of the week. Hey, it's so nice to have you guys. Thank you for being here. Mike Elgan is at Elgan, ELGAN.com. He also writes for so many people, including the Cult of Mac blog.
Yep.
And his regular posts on Google Plus have kept that site alive. For me, anyway.
And it has kept me alive. We sustain it. We complete each other.
We complete each other.
Google Plus, you complete me.
Yeah. You can find the Mac Daddy, Mac Breen, on at macworld.com. He writes the Mac 911 column and is a wonderful musician. You got any gigs coming up you want to plug?
If you happen to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, in Belmont, I think
He'll be standing on the street corner going, ha, 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 ha.
Yes,
oh,
yeah, I'll be doing all my
Chris
favorite
Breen.
Laurie Anderson thing. Oh, Chris Breen. 24th.
I surprised him.
Yeah, we're going to be at the downtown Belmont. My band System 9 is going to be playing at the 1 to 4 at their Music in the Park series. So come on down. It's a R&B band, and we're good.
I love that. I love that. Even your band has a Mac reference. System 9.
You know, but they don't. I mean, the thing is that we came up with this name long before. I mean,
You're kidding.
We're old, so this band's been around. No, I came up with the name in 1981.
Well, it was OS 9. You should have been System 7. Then.
Yeah, well, that's why they had to change the whole naming protocols because I was going to sue them.
They were your trademark. We can't be System 9. It's your fault.
You can't be. And they went, Right.
Coming up, we got some program notes. We've got a great TWiT photo coming up with our good friend, Bert Monroy is here. Bert, of course, is the Photoshop artist who did the amazing, Times Square, practically a life-size Photoshop painting of Times Square. He's going to be here for a TWiT photo in just a few minutes. We are going to do special coverage next week. Our show will be a day early. It'll be on June 11th. We start our special coverage of WWDC with the keynote, roughly 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then continue on with MacBreak Weekly shortly thereafter. So please tune in on Monday, not Tuesday, for MacBreak Weekly next week, starting a little bit early at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 1700 UTC on twit.tv. In fact, this show normally is Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1800 UTC. But, you don't have to watch live on Tuesdays. You can watch any time by just downloading the audio or video for your very own self. Someday, we'll have a button. You just play it on everything. We make it as easy as possible anyway. There was some other program. Oh, one other program note. Yeah, iPad today. Sarah's going to London for Le Web and then going to spend some time in the south of France, lucky girl. So we're doing some extra iPads today. Of course, our usual time is Thursday. We will be on Thursday, but we're also going to be on this afternoon, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 2300 UTC, for a special edition of iPad Today this afternoon. So tune in for that. Thank you, Chris Breen. Thank you, Mike Elgan. Thank you for joining. Now get back to work. Break time is over.